Hey guys, how are you? I hope you are fine. Today's lesson is a grammar lesson. It's about relative clauses or relative clauses. Okay, let's firstly read the objectives of our lesson. We will learn the relative pronouns, we will have some discussion, and we will answer some exercises. Firstly, let's read this dialogue together and notice the words in red. Presenter. We are more likely to be run over by a car than struck by lightning. Is this true? Matthew? Yes, it is. Two people are afraid of lightning. It's easy to understand the reason. However, there is only a 4,000,000 to 1 chance of lightning striking you. Presenter. But aren't there some people who have been struck by lightning more than once? Matthew. Yes, there are. But these cases are very rare. In California, there is a man who has been hit by lightning 7 times. Presenter. And he is still alive? Matthew. Yes, he is. He survived. I don't know how he did it. Presenter. But what should I do if I'm caught in a storm? Can you tell me? Matthew. Well, don't stand near a tree. You shouldn't stand under a tree or near a telegraph pole. Most people know the reason for this. It's because lightning always strikes the object which is the highest. Presenter. Are there other precautions? People should know about them. Matthew. If there is a building where you can shelter, you ought to go to it, and make sure you close the windows. Presenter. So lightning doesn't strike buildings very often. Matthew. Actually, it does. There is a famous building in New York which is struck about 20 times a year. Presenter. You mean the Empire State Building? Matthew. That's right. But the people who are inside are safe. Presenter. Do you know any other unusual stories about lightning? Matthew. One of the most amazing stories is about a blind man whose eyesight returned during a storm after he was struck by lightning. He could see again. No one can explain it. They don't know how it happened. Now, let's notice the words who, which, where, and whose. All of these words are called relative pronouns, like who, that, which, whose, when, where, and whom. Now let's read this discussion together and let's guess the answers. When do we use who and when do we use which? When do we use when and when do we use where? Firstly, let's know the meaning of relative clauses or relative clauses. Relative clauses are clauses starting with a relative pronoun like who, that, which, whose, where, and when. They are most often used to define or identify the noun that precedes them. And here are some examples. For example, do you know the girl who started grade 7 last week? Can I have the pencil that I gave you this morning? A notebook is a computer which can be carried around. I want to eat in a restaurant whose cooks smoke. I want to live in a place where there is lots to do. Yesterday was a day when everything went wrong. Note that there is a relative pronoun which is whom, which can be used as the object of the relative clauses. For example, my science teacher is a person whom I like very much. To many people, the word whom now sounds old-fashioned, and it's rarely used in spoken English. Okay. Relative pronouns are associated as follows with their preceding noun. Okay? So, the preceding noun, when the preceding noun is a person, so the relative pronoun can be who or whom, or that or whose. For example, do you know the girl who? Okay? The girl here is a person. Okay, he was a man that. Okay, an orphan is a child whose parents. Okay, when the preceding noun is a thing, so I have to put the relative pronoun as which, or that, or whose. For example, do you have a computer which? The oak, a tree that. This is a book whose author. Okay, let's have a look at these notes. Note 1. The relative pronoun whose is used to play in place of the possessive pronoun. It must be followed by a noun. For example, there is a boy in grade 8 whose father is professional tennis player. Note 2. The relative pronouns where and when are used with place and time nouns. For example, FAYOUM is a school where children from more than 50 countries are educated. 2001 was the year when terrorists attacked the Twin Towers in New York. Some relative clauses are not used to define or identify the preceding noun, but it gives extra information about it. And here are some examples. My ESL teacher, who came to Germany in 1986, likes to ride his mountain bike. So here, this sentence gives extra information about the ESL teacher. Okay. The heavy rain, which was unusual for the time of year, destroyed most of the plants in my garden. Einstein, who was born in Germany, is famous for his theory of relativity. The boy, whose parents both work as teachers at the school, started a fire in the classroom. My mother's company, which makes mobile phones, is moving soon from Frankfurt to London. In the summer, I'm going to visit Italy, where my brother lives. Okay? You have to notice that relative clauses which give extra information, as in the example sentences above, must be separated off by commas, as we can see here. My ESL teacher, comma, who came to Germany in 1986, comma, likes to ride his mountain bike. And here also Einstein, comma, who was born in Germany, comma, is famous for his theory of relativity. So I have to put commas and I have to separate the sentences to give extra information by using relative clauses. Okay. Note 2. The relative pronoun that cannot be used to introduce an extra information or non-defining clause about a person. For example, I can't say Neil Armstrong, that was born in 1930, was the first man to stand on the moon. But I can't say Neil Armstrong, who was born in 1930, was the first man to stand on the moon. Because here I'm giving extra information about the person who is Neil Armstrong, so I can't say that. I can say who. Okay. There are two common occasions, particularly in spoken English, when the relative pronoun is omitted. Number 1, when the pronoun is the object of the relative clause. For example, do you know the girl who or whom he is talking to? I can also say, do you know the girl he is talking to? Where is the pencil I gave you yesterday? Or I can say also, where the pencil which I gave you yesterday. So here, when the pronoun is the object of the relative clause, I can delete it. I haven't read any of the books that I got for Christmas. Or I haven't read any of the books I got for Christmas. I didn't like that girl that you brought to the party. Or I didn't like that girl you brought to the party. Did you find the money which you lost? I can say also, did you find the money you lost? Note that you cannot omit the relative pronoun in two cases. If it starts in a non-defining relative clause, or if it's the subject of a defining relative clause. For example, what's the name of the girl who won the tennis tournament? Okay. Number 2. When the relative clause contains a present or past participle and the auxiliary verb to be. In such cases, both relative pronoun and auxiliary can be left out. For example, who's the man standing by the gate Or who's the man who is standing by the gate? The family that is living in the next house comes from Slovenia, or the family living in the next house comes from Slovenia. She was wearing a dress which was covered in blue flowers, or she was wearing a dress covered by or covered in blue flowers. Most of the parents who were invited to the conference didn't come, or most of the parents who were invited to the conference didn't come, or most of the parents invited to the conference didn't come. Anyone that is caught writing on the walls will be expelled from school, or anyone caught writing on the walls will expelled from the school. Now let's answer this exercise. Add the phrase in brackets to the sentence using a relative clause. The first one. She worked for a man. The man used to be an athlete. Excellent. She worked for a man who used to be an athlete. Number 2. They called a lawyer. The lawyer lived nearby. Excellent. They called a lawyer who lived nearby. Number 3. I sent an email to my brother. My brother lives in Australia. Good job. I sent an email to my brother who lives in Australia. The customer liked the waitress. The waitress was very friendly. Great. The customer liked the waitress who was very friendly. Number 5. We broke the computer. The computer belonged to my father. Excellent. We broke the computer that belonged to my father. Number 6. I dropped a glass. The glass was new. Great. I dropped a glass that was new. Number 7. She loves books. The books have happy endings. Good job. She loves books that have happy endings. Now the last slide. This exercise will be homework. Thank you so much for watching and see you soon.